Hello, friends. Brian Gailey, Klamath Falls News. Welcome to Ask Klamath. This is episode 14 of our second season of Ask Klamath. And today we're joined by City Manager, City of Klamath Falls City Manager, Nathan Cherpeski. Nathan, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
We're actually going to be talking with Nathan today about what the City Manager does, future projects in 2019, marijuana, airport, downtown parking, and your live questions. We'll get to that in just a moment. Damien, roll that intro. Hello, friends. Welcome to Ask Klamath, presented by Fastbreak. Today, we're joined by Nathan Cherpeski, the city manager of the city of Klamath Falls. Nathan is an I'm going to just read his bio here so I don't screw this up. This was actually sent to me by Christina.
Oh, okay.
So that we can go over this. It says Nathan is an International City County Manager Association credentialed city manager. I want to ask you about that, what that all means. Cherpeski holds both a bachelor's and master's degree in public policy from Brigham Young University. He has worked in local government since 1999. Nathan has worked in South Jordan, Utah, Redding, California, Alamosa, Colorado, and now here in Klamath Falls. And he's been here since February 2013?
Yeah, I think I actually started the 30th of January.
All right.
2013.
So I know there's a lot of things that you have done. What is missing off of your bio?
What is missing off of that bio? As a city manager, that kind of covers each one of those positions had its own challenges and different things. When I was in Redding, I wasn't the manager. I worked in the manager's office, and if you've ever been to their library, I helped write that $21 million grant was a primary grant writer for that project, and spent most of my time there working on it, and left when it was about 60% done in construction, so it didn't get to actually see it. I came back after it was about a year old, but so I've done that, and I've been around. I have 5 kids. I have two sons. My oldest 2 have graduated from KU, and they are one's in Mexico and one is in Concepcion, Chile, they're missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Nice.
So I've got 2 of those out, and I've got one who's a young son who is a junior at KU, played in the football team. Proud of them this year. They did really well. And a daughter who's a freshman, and then one who's in 3rd grade. A daughter who's in 3rd grade. So
you're kind of spread out there like I am. I don't have 2 out of high school yet, but I do have 2 in high school and 1 in elementary still.
Well, they go so fast that after a while, it goes quick.
It does. Guys, so this Ask Klamath is brought to you by Fastbreak, and actually we are able to take your questions live in the comments for Nathan a little bit later. We're going to be asking those. Somebody is going to actually get a payday rewards card loaded with $25 by our friends over at Fastbreak. Nathan, you're able to select that person out of those questions if you like. If there's one of those questions that sticks out to you, like, you know what, that's a good one. We should reward those.
A lot of pressure then.
Lots of pressure. So because we are going to get a lot of great questions. Don't get upset if we don't get to yours and ask your questions. So please remember that. With some of that housekeeping out of the way, are you ready for some questions? We do have some already.
Sure.
Number one, though, city manager. What is that? What's the role of a city manager?
So the city manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city. So think the CEO of the city. So all the departments under our charter work directly under my supervision, and so I'm responsible for the budgeting, for all the utilities, and so I hire department heads who do that and essentially run the day-to-day operations. The council will set policy, and then it's my responsibility to put that policy into action.
Okay, so do you then work for city council, or you work for the people? How does that work?
So I am appointed. So I put it this way: I work for the people, but I am accountable to the city council.
Okay.
The 5 city councilors. They are the ones who hire my position. That's who I report to. But I work for all the residents of.
And then everybody else within the city works for you, because as the tree funnels out,
correct,
the department heads report directly to you, and then everybody up under that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And here we have great department heads. I think you've had Chief Hensley on. He's a a great chief. I've hired several chiefs of police in my career, and he is one of the top. Great individual. I have Mark Wilret's our public works director, responsible for the utilities. He's been with the city for 20 plus years, a professional engineer. He's very good at that. Brooke Marshall's been with us probably the least amount of time, about a little over a year. We brought her in. She and the chief have a little rivalry going because she is a Duck and he went to Oregon State. So we have that going, but she runs our what we call support services. That's all of our internal departments, HR, IT, those things that support that. And then John Barslew out at the airport.
Okay, so lots of things that you oversee. So there's no shortage of on the to-do list, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's sometimes you feel like you're an inch deep and a mile wide in a lot of things. There's just lots of stuff that go on that you're trying to be familiar enough with to help those department heads and to give some good guidance.
Okay, so you mentioned we mentioned the cities that you've been affiliated with in the past. Reading was one of those. There was one in Colorado. What have you done in those locations? You mentioned a library project in Reading. What's brought you to where you're at now?
That's a good question. So when I went to school, I had two goals when I went into this field. Is I did not want to work in local government, and I didn't want to ever live in the state of California.
No.
And so I violated both those.
I see that.
But I started out working for the city of South Jordan. I was an intern as I was finishing my master's degree. Worked in their administrative services department. So that's finance and a lot of those things. So I helped put together their, we call it CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And I did that. I managed their fixed assets. I did that for about 6-9 months. Graduated and then took a position in Reading in their finance department and wrote grants. And then as I did that for a while, then I was promoted up into the city manager's office as a management assistant. And then I dealt mostly with citizen complaints in that position and dangerous dogs, all sorts of things, and still the library project. From there, when my mentor retired, I looked around and realized the guy they hired was a great guy. Kurt Starman just retired this past year. I realized if I wanted to be a city manager, it wasn't going to be in Redding, California. So there was an opening in a little town called Alamosa, Colorado. So I took that opportunity, applied out there, and went out there and it was a great time. It was a great little community, 7,600 feet elevation, so it was a little bit high. Their problems were very much like Redding's, just a matter of scale. So a lot of the problems, even at Klamath Falls, are very similar. Everybody has similar problems. We each have some unique ones, but a lot of the stuff, there's not enough money for all the roads you have to maintain. There's always personnel issues. There's always those things that you're dealing with, and they're not unique, but each town is unique. So I served there for almost 7 years, and I took this position here, and I've been here almost 6.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here. And we've met on several occasions before. I never really sat down and had a chance to talk, but Nathan and I, we've been in Salem together, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, a couple times.
A couple of times up there. So a lot of good things here. So how long have you been doing this? You've been to several cities now. You started out straight out of college. So how long has it been that you've been doing something city, local government type?
In local government, I actually started in June of 1999. So I don't know if it was before I graduated that I started working in local government. So I will be coming up on 20 years. Seems like it's gone pretty fast. It feels weird to have been here 6 years. It doesn't feel like I've been here
20 years ago to think where you are now, it's like, oh, that's a long time away, right?
Looking forward, it's a long time. But looking back, it didn't take that long.
It didn't take very long. It's that way in a lot of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what would you say is your favorite and least favorite parts of your job?
I really enjoy working with people and helping them solve issues, whether it's, they have a concern about a stop sign or lack of a stop sign, going out and meeting people. And I find it's easier to go out to their location to where they have a concern to meet with them. I enjoy doing that. Least favorite has to be personnel issues, which, in every city, I have a great staff. But with 160 people, there's always something that might be coming up. And so it has to be dealt with. It just takes a lot of time. And it doesn't feel as productive as going out and helping somebody solve a problem and meeting the need of the community. So
again, it sounds like a lot of the businesses that I've talked to where their favorite thing that they love to do is what they produce. And in your case, it may be solving problems and taking care of the people. And their least favorite things is sometimes running the company. Right? The personnel issues that come along with it. So it's a lot similar to that.
It's similar. Probably is exactly the same. You get to go out and do what you're trained to do and help somebody solve a problem or solve a issue, come up with a way to build that less expensive or be more efficient. And then you have the stuff where somebody does something, you think, well, why did you do that? And you just have that conversation, and everybody makes mistakes. I get that. So that's probably the least favorite part.
All right. Well, guys, do you have a question for Nathan? Now's a great time to ask it, because somebody is actually going to get a payday rewards card loaded with $25 from our friends over at Fastbreak. We're going to be taking a commercial break, and like I said, it's a great time to get those questions in. We'll be right back with more from Nathan.
Fuel, refreshment, convenience, community, rewards. Fastbreak convenience stores with 7 basin locations at Madison Chevron, Homedale Fastbreak, Merrill Mobile, 97 Chevron, McDowell Fuel Good, Washburn Chevron, and Blight Fuel Good. Fastbreak, convenience, community, service.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
vests,
or reflectors,
please give us some room. Slow down and move over.
When you need us,
we've got your back.
Do you have ours?
You got our back?
You got ours?
You got our back?
Please, slow down
and move over.
You can have your car taken to the shop of your choice. So my friend had her car taken to Excel Auto Body because she heard about their reputation for excellent work. They even gave her a written warranty that's good for as long as she owns that car. So Excel Auto Body is a very smart choice.
Hi, I'm Rourke, owner of Excel Auto Body. No matter if the damage is minor or major, you'll want to choose us now. So if you are ever in an accident, you'll be ready. And remember, it's your choice what body shop you go to. Choose Excel Auto Body. It's your car, our reputation.
Hello, friends. Brian Gailey, Klamath Falls News. Welcome back to Ask Klamath. We're joined today by Nathan Cherpeski, City Manager for the City of Klamath Falls. We're going to be asking some of your questions here in just a little bit. Be sure to get those in the comments below. Nathan's got some great answers for us on a lot of different things that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But before we get there, this section is actually brought to you by CrossFit APE. They're located at 105 North Spring Street. CrossFit APE offers core strength and conditioning program built on a consistently varied functional movements, executed at high intensity. You can learn more about them at crossfitape.blogspot.com. CrossFit APE, evolve your lifestyle. Nathan, you ready for some more questions?
Sure.
All right. So we got to know who you are in the first section before we went to commercial break. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what's going on in the city and different things, particularly like some different projects and other issues. What are some of the things that project-wise that you guys are working on right now within the city?
So one of the big things we've been working on for the last couple of years is trying to address blight. And when we talk about blight, we're talking about those houses that might be in your neighborhood that drive your property value down. We recognize people have property rights, but we're trying to deal with those that have been boarded up for many years and those kind of things. So we've focused. We went out and, as a staff, identified 60 homes that were in, these are all residential, that were in rough shape, boarded up, many for many, many years, and have started a process. We've probably corrected about 30 of those so far.
Oh, nice.
They've either come off, the homeowners have taken care of them to get them off that list. And so we've really been putting a lot of effort into that, trying to clean up our neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
The impression of when people come into town, what do they think of us? And we are seeing benefits from that. If you, at one point in the Mills neighborhood there, I think the first part of this year, the police pulled 60 abandoned cars out of there, had those towed. And so just trying to clean up some neighborhoods. And as we do that, we talk to the neighbors and they have an expectation of what their neighborhood should be. And we're just trying to help everybody stay to that standard. So that's one we've been focusing on, and we call that a focus area. So we've really been looking in the Mills area around the park. And so we've made some investments in the park. tried to clean up our infrastructure, the things that we own. And that's a concept as, if we care about it, then, we can't tell people to care about it if we don't, as city employees and the things that we are responsible for. So we've been focusing on that. And we're going to move that around periodically as we go through and just look at if these stop signs are crooked, straighten them up. If if they've been tagged, we got to clean them up. If the water meter boxes are broken and all crazy angles, straighten them up, make it look like we care. And so replace the fire hydrants when they're obsolete. So we've been doing that work in Mills, and we'll be moving that around through the community on top of our normal work. But it's just really was trying to focus everybody's effort for a while. So that's one we've been focusing on. Housing's an issue that's coming up. I've been lucky enough for the last several years to serve on a committee for the Air Force representing Kingsley Field, and housing comes up regularly with them, and how do we help them? It comes up with a lot of our major employers. They'll offer jobs to somebody, and that person can't find housing here. And so we've been working with that, had a meeting last night to discuss that. And wastewater treatment plant. Those are all big projects coming up, and of course, on top of that, all the normal day-to-day things that we deal with.
So you mentioned the wastewater treatment plant. Is that kind of the big 2019 plan right now? Is getting that taken care of?
It's the biggest project we'll be doing probably for some time. It's $40 million plus. That plant was built in the mid-50s, and it's just a tough environment, right? It has to work all the time. It's what has to get that water clean. If you've ever toured it, you see when it comes in at the headworks and when it goes out at the discharge, it's clear at the discharge, and it's not when it comes in. And it's just it's aged. And with the new permit requirements, we're going to have to do some work on it. So we've been working on that for many, many years. We're in the process, nearly done with the design, and hopefully the construction will follow after that. But it's an expensive project.
Will it be able to stay at the same location, or is it going to have to move?
It'll stay at the same location. It has to run the entire time. So it makes it a very difficult construction project because it can't shut down. And so as you're doing that, the first part will probably be the headworks where the water first comes in. We need to build a new one of those, and we'll divert, and then we'll demolish the other one, and then we'll be taking parts offline and changing it as we go, or building the new parts and then shifting it in. So it's a very complex construction project simply because it can't stop.
Right.
It has to run the entire time.
So you're going to construct and dismantle as you go along for it to be built in the same location, which is off the end of Spring Street, right?
Correct. And it will actually be expanding a little bit. They'll be changing some of the processes. Right now, at least the design is to change some of that process. This was a process designed in the 50s. It's been a tried and true process, but as we went through, some newer techniques are available now that should help us remove the phosphorus and other things that we're required to be able to discharge into the Klamath River and so into Lake Ewana there. And so that's what we'll be using, something called biomag. It's a magnetic process that goes in and helps capture the materials that are in the water and pull them out, bring them down to the ground. Then you recycle the magnetic material and go back through. So it's a pretty interesting process. It's new for the West Coast. They've been using it on the East, so it's not new. It's not cutting edge technology, but it is new, definitely for the West Coast.
Okay. So changing gears just a little bit. In November, the city residents decided that they wanted to, and passed Measure 18112. That was the recreational retail sales inside the city, along with manufacturing, distribution, and a few other things. Wanted to chat with you about that for just a moment. I know it's kind of the big hot topic right now. A lot of people are curious how that's going to work, how it's all going to play out. What are you seeing within the city with that right now? I know you guys are working on some direction in developing some ordinances to go along with that. Where are you guys at? Where's the direction?
So right now, council has adopted some interim rules that will go in place before February 1 when it becomes legal. So the ordinance that was passed takes place it becomes effective February 1st of 2019. So we've adopted some interim rules. Essentially, they're the same rules that we've applied to medical marijuana, which the city had already allowed. The ordinance also created a 3% tax, so we're in the process of working with the state on that because we're going to have them collect and administer that tax for us, so we don't have to hire people to do that. And then it set up an advisory committee. So council, the first one, they passed the interim rules. They adopted at first reading at the last meeting an ordinance that established what that committee would look like. And that advisory committee, so it's advisory, they don't get to make rules, but they can, the majority of the members will be city residents, but they are allowing those who have businesses and other interests to also, and live in the county to apply. So the process will be that group will apply. There'll be some sort of interview or some process where the mayor will then recommend to the council who should be on that advisory committee, and then they'll agree to that. So the mayor will appoint, but the council will agree to those appointments.
Okay. So what are you expecting from this committee? You said it's an advisory. They're not going to be making policy, but what is kind of their duty?
So they're going to look. So they'll advise on policy. They're going to recommend to council maybe those interim rules are again interim. They may look at maybe you should tweak those, tweak this, do this. They will make recommendations to council on what our local regulations look like. If the state makes changes, then they would weigh in and provide council some direction on what they think council's reaction should be if the state makes a change. So it's advisory. We have advisory committees in many areas. Parks, we have a parks advisory committee. We have a downtown parking advisory committee. And so we get advice from committees all the time, but then council is the one who has to enact it.
So if somebody wanted to become involved in that and apply, how do they do that?
On our website, we have an application. You can apply.
So it's klamathfalls.city?
klamathfalls.city.
And so the application is there. And how are you expecting this change with the retail of marijuana within the city? How's that going to affect business as a whole? Are you seeing anything there? Are you expecting anything there?
I think we'll learn a little bit as we go. We've had a lot of interest from, I think, local and outside entities interested in the marijuana business. They have approached us, so we have quite a bit of that. There were a lot of people who were opposed to that measure. We've still hear from them. They're concerned about some impacts, negative impacts to their own businesses. So just trying to balance all that. Certainly the voters spoke, and so recreational marijuana will be authorized in Klamath Falls. I mean, we should point out still that it is still illegal federally.
Yes.
This has just been decriminalized in Oregon, so we'll kind of see how all that plays out over the years. But certainly we've got a lot of people interested in it, but we're not processing anything until February 1.
Gotcha. All right. Anything else that you want to add regarding the marijuana? Anything there? Kind of open topic?
We spend a lot of time talking about it right now. I think it's a hot button issue for a lot of people, and certainly more rules will be coming out, tweaks to those interim rules.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to take a commercial break. Now is a great time to get your questions in for Nathan, city manager of the city of Klamath Falls. Somebody is going to get a $25 Fastbreak rewards card, a payday rewards card from Fastbreak. We'll be right back.
Fuel, refreshment, convenience, community, rewards. Fastbreak convenience stores with 7 basin locations at Madison Chevron, Homedale Fastbreak, Merrill Mobile, 97 Chevron, McDowell Fuel Good, Washburn Chevron, and Bly Fuel Good. Fastbreak, convenience, community, service.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over.
When you see lights,
Vests.
Or reflectors.
Please, give us some room. Slow down and move over.
when you need us.
We've got your back.
Do you have ours?
You got our back?
You got ours?
You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
You can can have your car taken to the shop of your choice. So my friend had her car taken to Excel Auto Body because she heard about their reputation for excellent work. They even gave her a written warranty that's good for as long as she owns that car. So Excel Auto Body is a very smart choice.
Hi, I'm Rorik, owner of Excel Auto Body. No matter if the damage is minor or major, you'll want to choose us now. So if you are ever in an accident, you'll be ready. And remember, it's your choice what body shop you go to. Choose Excel Auto Body. It's your car, our reputation.
Hello, friends. Brian Gailey here, Klamath Falls News. Welcome back to Ask Klamath. This is our 14th episode of Season 2, and we're happy to have Nathan Cherpeski, the city manager of the city of Klamath Falls, joining us today, talking about all sorts of different issues. In the last segment, we talked about marijuana was a big topic, and projects, including the wastewater treatment. In this segment, we're actually going to talk downtown parking in the airport. So if you got some questions, get those in. Now's a great time to do so. We are also I want to give a shout out. You see their logo there in the corner. It's Klamath County Fairgrounds. So they've been a great sponsor of us this whole time, and I thank them for doing that. And they actually want to let you know that there are some events happening this weekend, as they always do. They're always busy with stuff. This weekend, the Jefferson State Shooting Association youth have a fundraiser. Racing in the Basin returns, and you can't miss the Big Ten out front. Lamb's Christmas tree lot is going strong right now. They are there, I believe, until the 20th of this month. You go get your fresh cut Christmas tree there. You can learn more about what the fairgrounds can do for you at kcfairgrounds.org. Nathan, you ready for some more questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, let's talk parking. That seems to be another, at least that's what I hear a lot of times. And if you follow me personally, you know I've had some issues with parking here. Nathan and I had a conversation about that off camera. Not going to get into that personal stuff, but I did want to ask you, the holiday season, the 2-hour parking limit has been extended, meaning people can come down, they can shop, they can enjoy themselves, they can have lunch, maybe ladies come down and get their hair and nails done without having to worry about moving their car. Right? Is there any thought about continuing that or something else in the future?
So
outside the holiday season.
Yeah. So we've done that traditionally for the holidays for the last as long as I've been here, we've backed off and trying to encourage people down. We have a parking advisory committee. As we talked about earlier, we've talked about the 2-hour rule for forever, and I think now that the streets really, the on-street parking is probably always going to be 2 hours because it encourages turnover, so you don't get employees parking and not a place for customers. But our parking lots we've certainly looked at, and I think there's potential there that we may have longer. Again, we're waiting for that advisory committee. It's fairly newly constituted. We had a group, council tweaked what they were doing and created a new group, and so hopefully they'll give us some advice on that. And we'll be in front of council to designate some different times. And most of the other cities I've been at, you have the wide range from 15-minute parking up to 8-hour parking. Here, everything is 2 hours. I think just originally from the ease, it's been like that probably since the mid-'80s. So certainly could be adjusted.
Yeah, it's been that way as long as I can remember, having to deal with the 2-hour stuff. So why, you mentioned the ease. So why would communities have solely just a 2-hour when others, like you mentioned, have anything from 15 minutes to 8 hours?
The only thing I can think of is originally it was easier to enforce it, which is backwards because the city doesn't really care. Our goal, the businesses want the traffic to turn over in front of their businesses. They want their customers to be able to find a spot, and so that's why we do it. Because generally cities, it doesn't really matter to us whether that happens or not. But our businesses care, so we do care in that regard. And I think it was probably just an ease of enforcement. But again, enforcement's not our main goal. It's be able to get customers down and not have, one car sit in front of, so well, my employees don't park in front of my business, they park in front of yours, and yours park in front of mine, and then it just causes those issues. So that's really was the original intent, I think, of it. And when I say ease, it was just easy at 2-hour increments to be able to enforce it. We've kind of moved past that now, I think, and in conversations with this parking board, advisory board, I think they are actively looking at how do we do that.
Okay. Do you know if the board is taking outside input, or if there's a way that people can give their own, whether you like the 2 hours, you want a little bit more time? Is there a way to reach out to that committee and let people have their voice heard?
Well, there is. They actually have public meetings that most of our public meetings never have any of the public there. But there are people on that advisory group. Probably the primary person to contact right now would be Joe Wall at the City Hall. He's over that parking district from the city staff side, and he would be able to get that information passed on.
All right. So reach out to Joe.
Or they could even contact our office, and we'll get it to them.
Okay.
The administration.
Very good. So moving on from parking, airport. Airport's another one of those big topics. People want to know what's going on. You know, Kingsley's, what's the next mission for Kingsley and things like that. Part of that is the commercial airline service. Where are we at on commercial airline?
We're still actively talking to airlines. It's no secret we've had multiple conversations with SkyWest. So SkyWest is a regional airline. They generally don't fly SkyWest flights. They fly for other airlines. So if you've been on any regional, some of the smaller regional jets, they used to fly the Medford to Salt Lake route. That's now Compass, but those are the kinds of planes they do. And we've had continuing conversations with them. They are interested in the area, and it's just we're kind of at a tough spot right now in the history of aviation, that a lot of the smaller airplanes have just gone away. There's a pilot shortage. To fly, for every 50 passengers, you have to have a flight attendant. So you don't see 51 passenger planes. You see 50s and then 90s. They had some 70s. We used to operate a 30 passenger plane here. Well, that 30 passenger turboprop wasn't, the cost of operating that 50 passenger regional jet's about the same. There's 50 seats. Well, it's not much more to operate 70 or much more from that to operate 90. So if you're an airline, you go to that larger plane. You can spread that same fixed cost over more seats.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've struggled with that. They pulled out of the market, and then with the pilot shortage, a lot of them have closed. We had Pin Air in here. Pin Air had a lot of struggles. One of their main struggles is they came in and they'd operated about a month, and about a third of their pilots and flight crew left in about a week. They all got hired by the bigger airplanes, the bigger airlines, who also were in a pilot crunch and looked around and said, hey, there's experienced pilots. We can pay you a lot more, and you come. And so a lot of the regionals have suffered greatly. They've lost a lot of their capacity, and so we're in that. We could probably support a 50 passenger jet. We can't support 70 plus. Alaska Horizon, their smallest airplanes are 76. We can't sustain that. We just don't have enough passengers, and so that puts us in a box. And a lot of these regional carriers fly out of federally subsidized airports. We would have qualified at one point, but they closed the program at the time. We didn't need them, so we're not eligible for a federal subsidy to operate rural air service. So we have to do that on our own. We have to make that market work.
So do you think it's going to happen? You guys have been in talk, and John Barcelow has been in those talks. You've been in those talks. Does it look like it's going to be something that's going to happen, or is it still down the road ways?
It'll be out a little ways, because all their planning, even if they said we're coming today, their planning is 6-9 months out. Right? That's how they do their scheduling. From the positive side, when we meet with them, it's some of their high ups, their CEOs in there talking to us. Generally when they're not interested, you talk to the assistant of the assistant, vice president of something else, and you're down there, and it's not very productive. But it's been very productive with them. I think they are trying to figure out how to make it work. They served this community for a long time for United and other carriers, and had good success here. And so it's trying to figure out how to get them back.
Is there any other carriers that you guys are looking at besides SkyWest?
We have talked to a lot of carriers. There just aren't many regional carriers left. A lot of those have closed or merged, and so realistically, it's going to be SkyWest is the biggest one on the West Coast still.
Could it be something that a private person could do?
Yeah,
or is it got to be a larger carrier just because of the volume?
So the way it works under the federal rules, there's different licenses you operate under, and so what people are used to is what we call it's a FAA 121. They're operating under Part 121, so it means they can be scheduled air service, and they can fly you into airports. They have the security, they have all that. That's a very difficult license to get. This country is the longest in aviation history, which of course didn't start till the Wright brothers, but in that time, it's the longest U.S. has gone without starting a new airline. And so the last new airline, I believe, was JetBlue. We haven't had a new airline in this country since then. The barriers to entry are quite high. Mm-hmm. At one point, we looked at, well, how hard would it be to start our own airline? Or to get some investors and do an airline. And essentially, we talked to a consultant who helped us, said, you're going to spend anywhere from $2 to $5 million, spend 3 to 5 years, and there's no guarantee that you'll get a license. Wow. And so, if you're a startup, that's a big hurdle to get over to start. And then, the pilot shortage hits everybody. So there just aren't that many regionals. We're continuing to talk. We've talked to some other airlines. A lot of them are specifically only do the EAS, that Essential Air Service, that federal subsidy, which kind of puts us at a disadvantage because we don't have it, mm-hmm. and we're not eligible for it. We did try a bill this last year that was introduced in Congress that would have created an exception for a community, specifically with an air base, that was joint. So there were, I think, only 3 of us in the country that would have qualified. We had support, but it didn't get introduced, mm-hmm. or it got introduced, just didn't get attached to anything. The way Congress works, very few bills actually go through on their own. They get attached to other bills.
Right. So the EAS, Essential Air Service, the federally subsidized stuff. Why is it that we're exempt from that, or we're not able to be into that guidelines?
So when they closed the program and froze the program, to be eligible, you had to have only one carrier, and there were a bunch of different rules. Well, we had air service, and at that time we had 2 carriers operating out of here, Horizon and United, and so we were not eligible. We didn't need it. Mm. But they froze the program, and so those who are in the program have done well. Now, they've tried to tighten that down. You have to have a minimum of 10 passengers a day, different things. But we look at a competitor city that we try to recruit, airlines against, and that airline's going to spend $5.5 million a year to operate out of your community. And here we've got our users have to come up with $5.5 million through ticket sales and all that to make that work. And in that area, the federal government's paying $4.9 million to them. So, it's hard to compete. Why would they come here when it's all risk on them? Versus over there, they just got to get another $600,000. They've covered their costs, and anything they get on top of that is profit.
So, with that program being frozen, does it look like there's any chance that it might open up for places like us? Or
well, I think we'll try that route again in Congress, but it was a congressional action that froze it, so it would have to be a congressional action that opened it. The interesting thing is they've had fewer and fewer cities in it, but the price has gone up. So it's a program that has actually been on multiple presidents' hit lists to get rid of for a while.
All tough stuff going on.
Stuff.
I'm glad it's you and not me, because I wouldn't like that very much. So, guys, we're going to take a commercial break here in just a moment. Once again, this is a great time to ask your questions for Nathan. Somebody is going to ask a question. We'll get a payday rewards card here loaded by our friends over at Fastbreak. We'll be right back.
Fuel, refreshment, convenience, community, rewards. Fastbreak convenience stores with 7 basin locations at Madison Chevron, Homedale Fastbreak, Merrill Mobile, 97 Chevron, McDowell Fuel Good, Washburn Chevron, and Blight Fuel Good. Fastbreak, convenience, community, service.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over.
When you see lights,
Vests.
Or reflectors.
Please, give us some room. Slow down and move over.
when you need us.
We've got your back.
Do you have ours?
You got our back?
You got ours?
You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
You can have your car taken to the shop of your choice. So my friend had her car taken to Excel Auto Body because she heard about their reputation for excellent work. They even gave her a written warranty that's good for as long as she owns that car. So Excel Auto Body is a very smart choice.
Hi, I'm Rourke, owner of Excel Auto Body. No matter if the damage is minor or major, you'll want to choose us now. So if you are ever in an accident, you'll be ready. And remember, it's your choice what body shop you go to. Choose Excel Auto Body. It's your car, our reputation.
Hello, friends. Brian Gailey here at Klamath Falls News. Welcome back to Ask Klamath. Joined today by Nathan Cherpeski, City Manager of the City of Klamath Falls. We've been talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but we're actually going to be taking your questions here next. So one of you guys is going to walk away with this payday rewards card loaded by our friends over at Fastbreak. It's got $25 on it. You can use it on food, fuel, convenience stores, at the pumps, wherever you would like. This section is actually brought to you by our friends over at Shasta Family Dental. Dr. Brown has created a team of individuals that hold high value in family, community, honesty, integrity, and compassion. They provide quality, compassionate dental care through trust and respect of their patients. They're there for you and the community. Shasta Family Dental is located across from the City PD on Shasta Way. Learn more at shastafamilydental.com or give them a call at 541-884-5474. This is a time where our guests get to actually talk about what's on their mind. What's been on your mind lately, Nathan?
You know, we there's a lot of issues, and this community has a huge amount of potential. We deal with developers coming in from out of town, and they all say, hey, you've got a lot of potential. But one of the things that we struggle with, I think, is our own self-image. Because I'll talk to people who've been here a long time, and they'll use a phrase like, well, it's just Klamath. Or, interesting, we've been here 6 years, so it's kind of died down. But for the first several years, people ask, oh, you're here, do you like it? They were almost questioning, why are you here? It's a great place. Mm-hmm. I think we should be happy here. We meet people from, California are coming up here, and developers, or from the Portland area, and they see this great place. Hey, we could do some, there's an opportunity here. There's great opportunities here. But I don't know that we see it ourselves. So I'm hoping that over time that we become a little bit more self-confident. Yeah, there's a reason people would want to live here. We're seeing new investments in even in the Mills neighborhood, where the grocery pub down there. They've put an investment in and doing some nice things, and they're bringing people off the highway to come in there and stop. And when you go out and just talk to those people, it's good things. As I said earlier, we're focusing in Mills. We put in with the help of Cascade Health, put in a park, a playground this year. We took that out in probably the early 90s. Said, oh, they don't, it gets abused. We put this new one in. We changed the basketball courts and talked to some of those the youth playing basketball there one night. They love it. They're excited about it. You see it. It's good, positive use. And I think it's just that, are we down on ourselves? We say, hey, we've got potential. If we are mindful of that and take good, positive steps forward, this is a town people want to be in. There's a lot of potential. We've got our challenges. Everybody knows that. But this is a great place to live. We should be happy to be here. We shouldn't hang our heads. Most frustrating thing, we go up to Salem and somebody goes, "Oh, you're from Klamath. Sorry." I just want to grab them and put them in a headlock and say, "Shut up! What are you talking about?" I'd rather live in Klamath than Salem. Trust me.
And I would agree with that. And a couple times I've been up there, I've been greeted kind of the same way. And it's not like the aides; it's the actual elected people. You're from Klamath. No, I am from Klamath. I'm happy to be there.
Happy to be from Klamath.
There's not a lot of places in the state that have what we have to offer. 30-minute drive in any direction, and you're in completely different elements, from the high desert to the mountains to the lakes and the rivers, and there's lots of outdoor activities. And if you're not into that, there's so much to offer, so many things going on.
Yeah, that's always that frustrating. It's like, why are you in Klamath? I talk to other city managers, and every once in a while they'll say that, and it's like, what are you talking about? I've been to your town. I'll put my town up against yours any day. Let's take pictures,
and fight. No, but seriously, there's a lot of good things that we got going on, and every community has their pros and their cons. We're not trying to hide anything, right?
No, we've got challenges.
But talking about some of the cons, the Blight, you guys were you mentioned that just a few minutes ago, earlier in our broadcast, that you're talking about fixing some of the rundown places in town, and sometimes it's the owners, and sometimes you kind of go in there. And you mentioned there was 60 homes that were on your list on that.
Yeah, so we just went around and picked them. We passed some legislation. Some of the things that are frustrating, I think, for the neighbors are trying to figure out who owns these homes. So a lot of these were, during the last recession, they were bank owned. So the banks took them. But the banks haven't gone all the way through foreclosure. So if you go on 9th Street, right there's that gray house and then the purple house. They're on the same lot. They're boarded up. Finding out which bank actually owns that has been just a burden, trying to figure it out, because they're not always sure who owns it either, because that whole monetization and securitization of the mortgages, they got sold so many times. We actually had a company in there. We had cited them. They were in there, started to work. They probably spent $5,000 to $10,000 working on those homes, then came back and said, oh yeah, we realize those aren't our properties.
Oh boy.
And so they left. So then we think we have the next one in line, just trying to get them to take action. It's interesting on those ones. And then some are locally owned properties that have just been let go. And so we need to focus on that. And we're doing that for their neighbors. We have people call up and say, hey, look at this house next to me. My realtor's looking, I'm going to sell, I'm upgrading, I'm doing this. And the realtor says, that's going to keep me from selling. What do we do? And so that's when we started, we can't just let these go. We've got to address them.
Mm-hmm. And that's good, because is that you're addressing them and you're changing the impression of it, that'll help change kind of the mindset as well. In comparable, some of the other communities in our areas, are they experiencing blight in some of their homes and abandoned homes and things like that?
Medford's having a big issue. We've been talking with them as well, and actually adopted similar legislation at our ordinances at the same time, worked with them on how they were addressing it, how we're doing it. Because it is an issue all over, especially those zombie homes, the ones where the banks own them, called zombie because nobody knows who has them. So they are seeing that. Some of them have actually seen more of a resurgence than we have. Ours is, I think, happening. It's just been a little slower.
Okay, so it is not just isolated to Klamath Falls. These are issues that many cities have.
Yeah, this is an issue I hear when I go to conferences with people from all over the world. They're all talking about it. It's a really kind of post-recession for us all over this country, and blight is an issue that happens everywhere, even in other countries. But this one specifically is one we've been trying to focus on.
Are there any other issues that we're experiencing that most other cities are experiencing as well? Something along those lines of I thought that was only a Klamath problem. Is there some other ones out there?
Well, I don't know if they know Klamath problems, but certainly our roads, right? We've put a lot of effort into the roads since I arrived here in 2013. That was one of the things council said we want to do more with. We've got to fix these roads, and so we've spent a lot of money in trying some different things to do that. But that's common everywhere. There was an era probably in the late 80s, early 90s where people just stopped investing in their infrastructure, and you can only borrow from that infrastructure so long before it's aged, and we're kind of in that boat trying to catch up now. When I first got here, we were on schedule to replace our water lines, I think once every 200 years, and our sewer lines once every 400 years.
Oh, wow.
So put that in perspective. You can't do that,
right?
And so we've been putting more money into that to deal with leaks, but also that infrastructure. It's underground, and it'll last 100, 120 years, but it won't last 200. It's not going to last 400 years. I mean, we'd be still using the same stuff they put in Jamestown. That's just not
We'd
realistic.
have wooden pipes.
Yeah, it's not realistic. So we've been replacing that. So it's really just those kinds of issues. Economic development in a small town is always more difficult. Housing is an issue that's all over the nation right now, and frankly, it's kind of odd that we have that, because you hear it in the big cities, but we have that same issue with housing. Not enough supply. Not maybe the pricing is too high. We need more of a mix of kinds of housing types.
Right.
We haven't. We had a meeting last night trying to figure out when was the last time we actually built a new multifamily unit that wasn't government, was not income controlled. the nice new ones, Iris Glen, Sky Meadows, those are HUD owned and they're rent controlled, or they're subsidized, right? So that only certain people income levels can live in there. But we haven't built one since the 80s. We've had a few built. They added on a few units. I think Matt Dotson and his family added a few in one of his units that he owns back like 10 or 12 years ago. But that was the last time anybody put any market rate housing in for people who just have jobs when it comes to multifamily. So that's an issue we've got to address and tackle because it's a problem. So we've been looking at, in the downtown trying to stimulate that as the college is talking about growing and adding more students. The air base is interested in adding, that new mission. How do we make sure we have housing? And the Main and Esplanade project, where we're trying to get some housing in the downtown, with retail on the ground floor. It's a project we've been working on for a while. That's one that I know the Air Force is very interested in seeing happen, just because they want to see something happen.
Right.
The university, I think it's a way for us to become more of a university town than just a town with a university in it. There's a lot of value to that university. If we look at how we're growing, somebody said, what are we? We used to be a timber town. Are we a medical town now? I said, no, I think we're more of a university town. You got a lot of expansions going on up near the university and with the hospital, but a lot of that's driven also by OHSU. We're now part of their rural healthcare campus. They're bringing doctors down here, training them to work in rural areas, and so those are all benefits. We should grab onto them and see how far we can ride it. And so there's some good things there.
And I've definitely seen that a lot more. You mentioned a town with a university in it, or a university town. And a great example of that is go to Eugene. It feels like the whole town is University of Oregon, right? Especially if you're down around some of the campus buildings off Franklin and whatnot. But I don't necessarily feel that going down Main Street here. It doesn't feel like it's, Oregon Tech, go Owls everywhere. Yes, there's a lot of that, but it doesn't feel like the culture's different.
Yeah, we've talked about that, how to do it. We, it's interesting because I was talking with my executive staff and said, everybody, we're talking about, we need to do this. How many of you are OIT grads? And a bunch of them raise their hand. How many of you have OIT gear? They're all wearing Oregon State or Oregon. It's like, which is fine. Those are big schools. They have big programs, but Oregon Tech's it's a unique school with engineers. I mean, I had some young people come in and talk to me about how they're trying to figure out how to recycle plastic bags and turn them into other things. And I'm thinking, I've been in other college towns where I don't think that's what the college kids were doing in their apartments, trying to figure out how to do that and inventing little things to do it in their kitchen. I don't think that's what was happening I don't think that happens in Eugene. Yeah, I don't think that happens in Eugene, but it happens here. So, it's a great university, and how do we grab onto that? So we've talked about how to do that. Bringing in more housing and having students, not Oregon Tech housing, but student housing where students would live or young professionals would live in the downtown, I think would be good. It would help. Those businesses would kind of change that, the downtown, and extend its hours. Instead of an 8 to 5 downtown, it would have longer hours. People would be around.
Could very well. Anything else on your mind, Nathan?
There's always something. You give me a microphone, I'll probably talk. But those are a lot of the things we talked about. I think a lot of potential in this town, and a lot of good things have happened, and a lot of good things can happen here. We just got to keep plugging away.
I agree with that. Well, we're going to take a look here and see what questions we have. We actually, looks like we have one right now from Kimberly Elliott. Kimberly, you ask a question every show. Thank you so much for doing that. She's asking, Nathan, what did you come away from last night's housing meeting with? We talked a lot about that. She's asking specifically last night.
Yeah, Kim was there too. So it was good. Yeah, and I appreciate her help with that as we were trying to organize that. The state passed a law that requires us to do a housing meeting because we are an area that has more than, I believe, 20%. We're at 33% of our households are considered rent burdened. And so that means they're paying more than 50% of their income towards housing. That's rent and utilities. And so we had that meeting last night, and a couple things. There's two things that go to affordability. You've got, one, the rents that are charged, and two, the incomes that people make. And new construction, those things are typically what are going to drive what the rents are, supply and demand. So if we want more supply, the rents have to be able to support construction, or as a community, as a city, we're going to have to be willing to subsidize a little bit to get some of it kick-started. And the other is to work on those incomes. And city invests heavily with KCEDA and with SCOED, two economic development groups here in town. KCEDA is primarily the one that goes out and attracts and tries to do that work. We invest heavily with them, trying to bring in those jobs so we can address the affordability on that side too. So main takeaway last night is there's not an easy answer to this, but it's probably a bunch of little things. One of the fascinating questions is, how did we end up in a housing crisis? Our population hasn't grown tremendously since 2008. What's changed? And some of it's those homes that are off the market because they've either been let go over the last 10 years. They're just not habitable right now, and maybe they were, or they've converted to Airbnb. Some other things that have happened, they've been purchased. They're now owner occupied, not housing or rental housing. So those are a couple of things. Main takeaway is we've got to figure out our housing mix. We have a study coming, and that will tell us a lot of what we're going to do. But I think we need to try and get some multifamily constructed just to change that mix a little bit.
One of the things I hear a lot of times is in what grumblings I hear, I guess, is a lot of the stuff that's out there isn't necessarily pet friendly, and a lot of families have pets. Is that an issue that you're hearing too?
So rentals that allow pets is an issue. You've also, there's a quality issue. Some of our units just aren't that nice. They're run down. And so we've been working with those trying to fix it. So I think there's a variety of issues. I know for the Air Guard and the Air Force active duty that the pet issue can be something. So as we talk to them, there are 84 active duty, I think 80 plus active duty out there. The rest are Air Guard. That makes it kind of interesting for them because they're coming around. I don't believe we're getting first term airmen. These are people who've been in for a while, so they have families, they might have pets. That's an issue. So I think that is a burden, but we do have units that allow it. I think might be more of a shortage right now.
Okay. Well, I know Kimberly I've talked to you in the past about getting you on the show. You're affiliated with the Home Rental Owners Association. I know I'm saying that wrong. And I'm sure you can answer a lot of those questions better for us. I hope to get you on here for season 3 starting in January. But yeah, there's a lot of good questions in there and things like that. So glad that some things are starting to happen. Having a study done is a great way to find out where we're lacking as well. So
yeah, the state gave us a grant to do the study. It's part of this House bill that passed, House Bill 4006 last year, and we'll get that study. Will hopefully tell us where we're short in our housing mix, and then we can start trying to address it.
Very good. I see we have another comment on here, Michael. Michael, I'm not going to pronounce your last name, so I'm going to say it wrong. Another business leaving Rue 21 due to high rent. I've not seen the whole comment. Have you heard anything like that? Is rent being an issue for businesses, commercial?
It kind of depends. Those are, of course, private property owners who have those. And my guess is if they think they're getting, if they've raised the rent, it's because they think they can get it. And if that company's leaving, then I've frankly seen landlords chase away good tenants, and then they realize that was a mistake, and other times it rents quickly. Sometimes with those companies, there's other things going on. I don't know about Route 21. I know when Sports Authority closed, my kids were in high school, and kids were, oh, how come the city can't even support Sports Authority? Well, Sports Authority was going bankrupt.
Yeah, that was more of a corporate
company. We just happened to be one of the first ones they closed, but they were going under. I don't know about Route 21. I hadn't seen that they were closing, but it's also not a store that I go to myself.
It's the first I've heard about it too. So that's why I was asking if there's might be commercial side of things.
Well, we're seeing, I think, rents may be climbing. I don't know. I know that they have some vacancies over in that development, but that's a developer who we talk to regularly, and he's talked about adding new space. So really, it would be a question for him. What kind of demand is he seeing that that he feels that rents can, those stores will cover it? I don't know.
Interesting. Kimberly says, "Thanks, Nathan." on answering your question there. So we actually have two good questions here, both related to rentals. I'm not going to persuade you one way or another, but does either one of those show an interest in possibly getting a gift card?
You know, as a city manager, I have to represent him. I'm going to let you pick.
Oh,
because that's I try not to.
I see how you did that.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna say Michael on this one. Michael with the question there about the commercial stuff, and only because I'm gonna share it because Kimberly has already won one, so I wasn't going to tell you that just in case you wanted to give her one. But Kimberly has got one in the past. So, Michael, I'm going to reach out to you. You're going to be our winner for the payday rewards card from our friends over at Fastbreak. It's going to be loaded with $25 for you. We do that for anybody that asks a question live on the show. Anything else on your mind you want to talk about?
No, I just hope everybody has safe holidays and Merry Christmas.
Well, very well. Thank you for being here, Nathan. I appreciate it. This has been Ask Klamath, presented by Fastbreak. Congratulations to Michael, our winner. Again, I'm not going to pronounce your last name because I know I'm going to screw it up and I'm just going to look like an idiot. Ask Klamath is a production of Klamath Falls News. It's hosted by myself, Brian Gailey. Off camera is Damian Johnson over there. He is our producer handling everything. Thank you for everything you do, Damian. Actually, next week is going to be Damian's last show with us. He is he's moving on to a bigger, brighter future. So we're actually looking for a new person to do Damian's job. So if you're interested, let me know. With that said, if you liked our show, like it, comment, share it, let people know it's here. Ask Klamath, we're here every Wednesday at 4 o'clock right here on Facebook. You can rewatch anytime through the archives here on our Facebook page. You can also go to askklamath.com and catch any of the 20 episodes that we've had now between season 1 and season 2. Next week, we've got a very special guest. It's Franny. Damien, remind me of Franny's?
Franny House.
Franny House. Thank you very much. She's assistant professor of communications for Oregon Tech. Going to come up and talk to us about their program, their comm program up there. It should be a very interesting show. That's actually going to be our last show of this season as well. So on behalf of my guest here, Nathan, thank you again, Nathan, for being here. Great show. Any one of these topics we talked about could have been an entire show.
Yeah, we could talk about them forever.
We could do that. We need to get you a regular on here once every season. How's that sound? He's like, oh, we'll see what we can do. Guys, this is Brian Gailey. We're live with Ask Klamath. We'll see you around the basin. Bye.